Crying out loud. We are live. Good morning, everybody. And I have to get us off of here. All right. Now I can't hear me echoing back, but good morning, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Zoom. It's happening a lot faster than it used to happen when I go into Zoom. There's no downtime, like boop, pops on and we're off. So there you go.
Okay.
How's everybody?
Good. Had a busy morning already.
I know. I was thinking about you. Tell us about your adventures in chiropractic.
Oh, it was a great talk this morning at the chiropractor's office. And guess what part of the talk was about mindset? I know. So I was like, and I knew it would be, but they were talking about a number of different things, nutrition and exercise, removing toxins or limiting toxins in our life, chiropractic care, and of course, mindset. And
Notes.
oh, I did. I took a ton of notes. So I just got to say that, they know about the SMART goals and everything that we talked about today in that meeting or in that group, was trying to break that fixed mindset that people have, on health, or that genetics determines everything, because genetics doesn't determine everything.
Right.
Like we talked about last week, like you said, we have the power to, or we can make a plan to change how those genes come out in us, or to change the genes themselves. Through diet, through exercise, through our choices, through our mindset, allowing that growth mindset to come in and not be so fixed and for so many different things, not just for health and your genes, but for so many different things, not to have that rigid fixed mindset that things aren't going to be good for me, or nothing good ever happens, or bad things always happen to me. So anyway, so that's part of what I was going to talk about anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, while we're before we get far into it, we keep forgetting, or I forget, what's in your diffuser. And you want to go first?
I just flicked on mine, and I have white angelica.
Good one. That's one.
I love it. That's
Are
what
you
I've been
creature of
using a lot
habit?
lately.
Mary?
I'm a creature of habit, and I just got my orange back, so I have cinnamon and orange.
Oh, so nice. I love it.
I love it.
I would say that I used to be a creature of habit, and I am still a creature of habit when it comes to diffusers in the house, but I always like to try different things, and then this one. So I was thinking of a theme of mindset, so I created a blend that I call Mindset Set, and it's 5 drops of highest potential, and 5 drops of Envision, and 3 drops of orange, just because I love orange. And it smells amazing. So I'm hoping that this high potential will get me in the right frame of mind, will let me help me meet my goals, and push me forward. So Camille, you got anything going?
I've got Aroma Life and Orange. Orange is the theme today.
Yes. Kathy, you have to add orange to yours.
I guess so. I'm going to change mine next time.
All right, here's a big question. Are you team fixed or team growth mindset? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll stop and we'll ask again. So all right, we're going to dig into that. So we've been bantering around the word mindset in the past couple of weeks. We were talking about why people don't heed the warning signs, why they don't change, and then how to change. And we just kept mentioning mindset. So we're going to talk about that today. And I don't know if we truly know what it means. I mean, I've had training on it in my previous life as a teacher, but I think when people talk mindset, they loosely talk about it's like attitude. It's your attitude. And we think about having a healthy attitude in order to accomplish our goals. And so, but there is actual research about mindset. And the most famous scientist that explores this,
Excuse me 1 minute. We're getting some feedback from you. Is anybody else experiencing that too, where it's almost like a little bit of a double? I just want to make sure because you have so much good stuff to say.
All
I want to
right.
make sure everyone hears that.
Let me see where we are here. I'm just gonna.
Does it matter? Should we mute, or do you think that would help?
No, I muted it. Didn't help.
Is it better? Oh, was somebody else watching?
It sounds better. You're like doing, like you repeat, it's like repeat.
All right.
And I can hear a little bit of feedback from me speaking too.
All right. So let me ask. Oh, Anita's saying there's feed.
Okay.
Are you still getting? I turned off the Facebook online.
I'm just making sure I don't
The
have
only thing
anything.
I'm thinking of is if one of you had been watching it on Facebook. All
mine's turned off too.
okay.
I didn't have anything.
Anita, are you still getting the feedback? It's not better. Okay, let's see. I never have this issue. I wonder if it's something different with Facebook. Let's see.
Let me check to see. I maybe still on Facebook. Let me check.
But you would hear it if you were. Is that any better? I made an adjustment. Kathy too. We're hearing Kathy as well. So I can't control.
That seems better. That seems better.
Is it better now?
Oh, it's perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I know you
No,
have
no,
so much.
I'm glad we took care of it. I think part of it, what I changed was that it was on my system microphone instead of my wait, that's not the right microphone. Let me see if this works. How is it now? Is it still okay? All right. It wasn't on the right setting for my microphone phone, so maybe that's something. So, okay. Back to mindset.
Nope.
It was.
You're back
Now
to
it's echoing again.
change it back.
That's weird. Okay, let's see. All right, is this better? I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me twice?
No.
Can you hear me 3 times? Okay. Weird stuff going on today. All right. Here we go. Carol Dweck is a doctor of psychology, and she explored this, and she wanted to know why certain people are successful and other people are not successful. It seems to be a theme that a lot of people have researched in different ways. When we were talking about happiness, I had another book that I was reading about a guy who was like saying, you have to be happy before you're successful. Here, she defined this as fixed or growth mindset. And so a fixed mindset is somebody that doesn't believe that their efforts matter, that they are born with a finite amount of talent or intellect, and it doesn't matter how hard they work, they're not going to get any further. Okay, so they're fixed in a spot. Whereas a growth mindset looks at those challenges and feels like every time they meet a challenge, it's an opportunity for growth and for learning. And they're not deterred by challenges. That actually helps them to work harder to overcome, and they actually welcome that. The idea here is that with hard work, anything is achievable within reason, of course. I guess there's a is it a fable or folktale? The tortoise and the hare is a prime example of a fixed mindset, right? So can you tell me which one is fixed and which one is growth? When you have the tortoise, is he fixed or growth? Oh, you're all muted today. You're not.
Oh, sorry. I think that the tortoise has a growth mindset.
The tortoise has a growth mindset. What about the hare?
I think he feels just because a hare is supposed to be, well, in that particular story, I think a hare feels because he's genetically supposed to be faster, quicker, whatever to win the race, that he's automatically just going to win because
Right.
he has this preconceived image of himself.
Right. And he cannot fathom a situation where that tortoise is going to beat him. And so he's careless and he doesn't work hard. He just relies on the talent that he knows he has, and then goofs off. And I can't tell you how many kids there are like that, gifted students that I've worked with in the past that don't really work that hard because they figure with minimal work, I'm still going to be better than most people. It's a really bad attitude to have. And yes, the hare, I mean, the tortoise has that growth mindset of, well, I'm just going to keep working at it. And eventually I'll finish the race. He may even be thinking, or she may be thinking, whatever this tortoise is, that I probably won't win, but I'm going to finish that race, by God, you know. And so it keeps working. And with that hard work, of course, we know what happens in the story. The tortoise wins because the hare is goofing around. And so I think they're a great example of fixed and growth mindset. So a lot of people question that idea of fixed and growth mindset because they think, well, wait, aren't we just born with our smarts and how smart we are? Isn't that finite? Isn't that something that we can't change? And I think a lot of people think that way, and that leads to that fixed mindset that we don't feel like we can be smarter than we already are, right? It's not that we don't try certain things or we don't work on certain things, but that limiting belief is that, well, I'm going to work at this, but I'm still only going to be a C student. I'll never, be smart enough to be an A+ student or whatever. But I was reading the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, and this is her first book on the subject. And she cites a quote from Alfred Binet, who created the intelligence test, the IQ test. And I don't know, I think I had this understanding that the IQ test limits where you are in your intelligence. And I think we think that our IQ is always going to be our IQ. And it definitely isn't. But the thing that I didn't know about that was even Binet himself did not create the IQ test to limit somebody's to measure the limits of somebody's intelligence, but to measure it at this point so that we know when there's growth. And he said, with practice, training, and above all method, we managed to increase our attention, our memory, our judgment, and literally become more intelligent than we are now. So I think it's a misunderstanding that he created that to limit the IQ and say this is what it is, but that he had that idea that it's possible to grow your intelligence. Another thing that can influence your intelligence, your talent, your whatever, is how you were raised, right? And how people regarded you in school. So like if you brought home a bad grade or a good grade, how were you treated? What did your parents talk to you about? Oh, you're smarter than that. Or, well, I know you did your best, and that can be limiting from parents. Like, my kid ain't too bright. So that was a C+ is a pretty good grade for them. And so when you're fed that information, that can mold your own mindset. the kids that I work with, well, I always told parents, I said, you can't praise a kid for being smart because they can't control their smart. You know, they don't know how to be smarter. I mean, you grow your intelligence, but they identify being smart as who they are. And so when a student fails a test, especially the higher level gifted kids, if they fail a test, they don't think about, did they study? Did they work hard? You know, did they prepare? All they think about was, I guess I'm not as smart as I thought I was. And then they try to hide that. So intelligence is a combination of nature and nurture, and it's something that we can always improve upon, and it's not stagnant. There's so much more information about the brain being plastic or elastic, or it's the brain plasticity, or neuroplasticity is the word actually. And there's more and more research that points to the idea that your brain can change and adapt and grow, and you can increase your intelligence level. You're increasing all of those skills that make up your intelligence. And let's see. Well, just think and point, like stroke victims who have lost the ability to talk, or they lost the ability to understand language, and then through time, through therapy, they get it back, right? And they are able to their brain, there's something called a functional change in the brain. And that's like when one part of the brain is not working, another part of the brain will adapt and take over for that part. So a structural change in your brain is when you're explicitly trying to learn something. So the brain is elastic. Okay. So where are you guys? Are you team fixed or team growth?
I'm a mixture of it depends on the situation.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think I'm a little more on the team growth than I am on the fixed, although I do have fixed things that I need to get past. I think with fixed and growth, there's like some subheadings underneath. So whether you feel like you're a fixed on team fixed, you can also have that victim mindset where you feel that, you know, the world is against you and nothing good's ever going to happen to you. Or you can have the, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but scarcity mindset, where that you always feel like there's not enough for everyone, or that you're afraid to move forward because of some reason. So those two things I feel fall under the fixed mindset as well. So yeah, I do have a little bit of the scarcity, whatever mindset, and a little of the victim mindset. So I think that brings me to, I have some fixed as well.
Yeah, I think that I have a little bit of both as well. And that's interesting when you talk about the scarcity, or the, what was the other one that you said, Kathy?
Victim.
Mm-hmm. Which you can easily fall into that as well. But I think when you defined it, which I'm happy that you defined it, because I was thinking when you were talking about the hare and the tortoise, I was thinking about a different story. But that makes sense, because if you think that things are always going to be the way they were, and nothing that you can do is going to change it, yeah, it's not going to get you very far. So the question is, how do you move from that fixed mindset to the growth mindset, which I'm sure Lynn's going to talk about.
So glad we are going to talk about that a little bit. I wanted to go back a little bit and just talk about something that just went out of my head again, because now I'm looking at my notes and I'm like looking at the highlighted stuff and just going, what was that point I was going to make? Okay. So I'm skipping over a whole bunch of stuff because we found that what they found was when Carol Dweck first wrote Mindset, she wasn't a this or that. You're either fixed or you're growth. But then as they did more and more research and they were confronted with this idea of, you know, like, wait, I don't feel like I have a fixed mindset about everything. They understood that yes, that it really varies in what Mary said, in the circumstances and what's going on. And then the new piece in her new book, it says, we will never be 100% growth mindset. Instead, it's a continuum, and our goal should be to develop more persistent growth mindset. So more persistent in those areas that we have them and keep moving. You don't get a growth mindset by proclamation. I have a growth mindset. It takes effort to recognize and manage our fixed mindset and develop strategies to help shift us out of our fixed mindset thinking. So I wanted to go also and talk about, I looked up mindset in the dictionary, and this is, this has nothing to do with Carol Dweck. It's just what was in the dictionary definition. And it describes it, mindset as an established set of attitudes held by someone. So a bunch of attitudes together create that mindset. Also, I think it's not just held by one person, but sometimes we can have a collective mindset. So if we think about essential oils, that probably the people, most likely there's a group of us who are into essential oils who have a collective mindset that essential oils are healthy for us, and probably we have other areas in our lives that we look for natural wellness, right? That would be our collective mindset. You know, toxins are bad. We try not to medicate if we don't have to. And essential oils are something that can help us to self improve in lots of different areas. So you can have a collective mindset, but I think those collective mindsets are like a Venn diagram. Do you know what I'm talking about? A Venn diagram? A Venn diagram, looks like a butt. This is the most simplest version of it. And so one circle represents A, one circle represents B, and then there are people who are A's and B's that they intertwine. And I think with mindset and with all of those different things, like we find all kinds of circles where you belong to different groups and different mindsets. So just wanted to get that out of the way. But moving forward is to, okay, you recognize that you have a fixed mindset about something. How do you get out of that? How do you find ways to grow? I want to share with you, God spoke to me last night in the middle of the night, and I followed our advice from last week, and I had a piece of paper. I had a little pad of paper next to my bed so I could write it down. And I just wrote down the idea, and then I got up earlier than usual this morning because I was excited about this. I was like, oh, I'm going to write this poem that God told me to write about the giraffe. So you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. Here it is. So I call it the foolish giraffe. Like other giraffes, Janine was tall, but she would not raise her head at all. Her highest potential well within reach, to munch on leaves, to try a peach. No, Janine was scared of her own height, and though she longed for just a bite, the view from above made her fear a fall. She couldn't rise above at all. Her mind made up she wouldn't try, the fruit of life would pass her by. But if she tried, she would have found her own 4 feet firmly on the ground. And that's my poem about mindset.
I think that's a great poem. The other thing I was going to mention about growth mindset, again, like I said about the fixed mindset. So I'm just interjecting here instead of waiting till and talking and at the end here. So, but if you think of growth mindset, you talked about earlier about there's also different things about a hero mindset, an abundance mindset, and an agile mindset all fall underneath that, under that growth
Right.
mindset.
I want to just clarify that when we were doing research, Kathy, you found all of these other types of mindsets that are not related to DWEC, but
Right.
I think out of these categories, some of them fall into a growth mindset and some fall into a fixed mindset, and they're categorized, I think, by their excuses, for at least for the fixed mindset.
Right.
So go ahead.
If you have an agile mindset, you're going to embrace that change that's going on. You're not going to stick with that feeling like you're a victim, that you have to stay at that point, you know, where you're at or what was handed down to you through genes or the way you were raised or whatever. So you're going to have more of, let's see, more of like a hero mindset, which with a hero mindset, you can rise above the challenges of trying to get past what was fixed in your brain before, your fixed mindset. So whether it's, you know, like you talked about doing good in school and the kids that were brought up with being, you know, that are gifted, or the kids that are struggling, they're not always going to stay there. You know, they can rise above those challenges if they're fed or have the right steps to move forward. Okay, and then also there's an abundance mindset as well that I feel falls under the growth mindset, that there is plenty for everyone out there. And I don't mean just material things. There's plenty of ways to move forward past your challenges. There's plenty of steps, and using, like we talked about, the SMART goals last week. So you can use those SMART goals and you can achieve that abundance in your life that you're looking for, depending on what it is.
I like what you said when we were chatting about this earlier about contrasting the scarcity and the abundance mindsets, that if we put it into the scenario that a lot of us have with selling essential oils, that some people are not willing to work that hard because they already have that scarcity mindset, saying the market is saturated, and so I'll never find any new customers who want essential oils, versus that abundance mindset, which is there's plenty of people who don't know about essential oils. And
Right.
you know, and so there's lots of potential out there for growth for me as a business person. And I I've gone back and forth with both of those, you know, because
too.
you feel like, oh man, all these people already are using essential oils. And then you meet somebody in the parking lot of Lowe's who's loading your car and he's like, what are essential oils? And, you know, you found somebody who doesn't know about them. So
Right.
that, yeah, that scarcity and abundance, I think, are direct opposites, and, you know, are illustrative of the growth and fixed mindset. So sorry, I just want to interject because that was
No, that's good. Now back to Linda.
back to
Oh,
me.
yeah, back to you. I kind of interrupted in your
Oh, all
talk
right.
there.
Well,
I was trying to interject a little.
I liked your you came up with all of these graphics and talking about improving, and that's what Camille wants to know about, improving. And I have another website that has 25 different things, and I'm going to mention some of them, but I'm not going to mention all of them because that would, you know, inhibit conversation. Because I think probably we have our own ways of digging ourselves out of the holes we put ourselves in. But my thing today, my graphic, I don't know if it'll show up. You tell me if it shows up if I go off. Let's see.
Yes.
See the picture? Don't let your limiting beliefs determine your next move. So they said, you limit your beliefs. This is the example that you wrote in there, Kathy. What if I get the new job? It says, start asking yourself the kind of questions that make room for positive outcomes. Okay. So what if I get that new job? What if I make more time? What if I find a healthy, loving relationship? So looking at the what ifs of positive implications of a change instead of limiting yourself of I'll never. Last week we talked about thinking of yourself in the positive, like I've always been really bad with money was the example. Well, change that around and start thinking of yourself as being okay with money so that you can lead up to I'm really good with money. But we mentioned this several weeks ago about positive self-talk. Like you are what you feed yourself. And so you have to talk to yourself in a gentle, positive way, like you're a child, encouraging yourself not to give up. And don't listen to those negative thoughts in your head.
Which brings us to the next one of don't use words that lower your vibrational frequency.
That sounds a little bit, but what do they mean by
It does, but
what do they
I
mean?
mean that's just the positive self-talk you were talking about. That's why I brought that up. So when you're telling yourself over and over, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or whatever, it's just, again, bring the good things and that you can do it. That, if you have a plan, you can move forward with it. Don't get to the point where you feel stuck. And don't force it. Embrace the changes. Have that agile mindset to move forward.
We talked a lot about goal setting, and SMART goals and all of that last week, but this kind of contradicts that in a way. And I think what they're saying is, yes, you should set goals, but you should be realistic in them and not give yourself, make sure you give yourself enough time and
Right.
I think this is me interpreting this, is that you can't just make the goal and then expect it to happen.
No.
And all of your efforts might go into that goal, but in a negative way. Does that make sense? Like you're almost over involved, focused on that to the detriment of everything else in your life. And then you feel like a failure when this thing that you're working so hard to make happen doesn't happen on your time frame.
So again, we have the SMART goals to relate to these things.
Right.
Make sure
Make sure attainable.
Right, exactly.
And
we talked about that last week, and that's, this just isn't all, like you said, if we relate the SMART goals to it, that's where you're going to change. You're going to see changes that way. It's not just, like you said, it's not just going to happen because you said, oh, I want this to happen or I want that to happen. Yes, you do have to change your mindset, but you have to have a plan with that mindset change.
Then they say, don't leave it to luck or chance, right? You can't just say, well, I hope I win $1 million and never play the lottery, right? You've got to take steps to, set it in motion. And, everything should be focused towards that. But yeah, just wishing really hard
isn't going to cut it. No.
Going to happen. Even praying to God isn't going to help us unless we, help ourselves, right?
Right.
And then the last one makes sense for everything. Don't give up. Be persistent. Just keep going, keep going. I want to switch over to that website, and this website, I will put this in the links. It's called 25 Ways to Develop a Growth Mindset. And I think the first thing is becoming self-aware again, like we've talked about this before, that you have to acknowledge and embrace your imperfections. we can't have this fake view of ourselves that we're perfect. You have to acknowledge that, yeah, I'm good at this, but I'm terrible at that. And I want to get better. So how am I going to get better? And then there's some things where you say, yeah, I am a slob, and I'll never not be a slob. And I'm good with that. I kind of like that about myself, that I don't have to make my bed every day or whatever the example is. So acknowledge and embrace those imperfections. I think a lot of times, all of these things that they're talking about are really talking about getting to know yourself and stopping and recognizing your actions and your thoughts. When you start something and you think, man, this is really hard, I don't know if I want to do this, then you have to think, oh gosh, that's a fixed mindset. Maybe I need to switch that. Stopping to acknowledge when you have these negative thoughts about anything. Stop seeking approval. Replace the word failing with the word learning. So when you make a mistake, you have to embrace it. And like Thomas Edison, think about all those different times that he failed. I think he said, I failed 99 times, or I don't know what the number was, but failed 99 times, but they weren't failures. They were just steps in the process to success. I'm gonna share this because this is actually a good list. You'll see it, and then I still will post it for you so that you can see it. Let's see, did I share that? Okay. Nope. What is that? Oh yeah, it is that. Okay. Here they are. Okay. Follow the research on brain plasticity. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm probably not going to be reading about that. I'm not gonna, that doesn't sound like me. Value the process over the end result, right? I think I have an issue with that because I know about myself that I need instant gratification. So when I start a project, if I'm not done with it within a few hours at the most, I lose interest. So I used to crochet, not anymore. It's just too long. I have to be doing this thing forever and ever and ever. And I lose interest in it. So valuing that process, would benefit me. I did used to like to crochet when we drove from Rochester to Florida. I would do it in the car as a way to pass the time. That's before I had a smartphone. But anything speak to you on these?
I think the stop seeking approval is really stands out for me a lot. For whatever reason, I feel like sometimes, and especially at work, like I have to ask for permission to do things that are to take care of me, right? So like I'm on a reduced schedule, but but I can work a little bit more. But is it okay if I still if I'm not feeling well, leave to go from home? Well, really, I do I have to ask for approval for that? Not really, right? It's just a very interesting thing, and that's interesting to see where that comes from. But you don't need approval to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you may need approval if you want to take a full day or whatever that is, but it's not necessarily even approval. It's stating what you need in order to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So very interesting.
I feel like somebody's gone on. Somebody's watching. I feel like that too. Like I feel like I do it a lot less now, but when I was working, it was always like more, how can I impress people and show them that I deserve this job or that I'm doing my job well. And nowadays, I mean, I used to seek approval, I think, in everything. And I still do, because that's part of my personality. Like I think we all want people to like us, you know, and I think it's kind of related to that a little bit, but I think you do have to separate out the meaningful things that you don't need approval, like you said, to take care of yourself. And I would say probably since I started doing essential oils and become passionate about it, that I don't care what the naysayers say anymore, because I know this is the right way and this is what I've been doing for myself. But I think it's tough to stop seeking approval when you've been doing it your whole life.
Mhm. And I think that goes into, even like saying no to things that, where you're afraid that you're going to disappoint people if you can't make it to an event, or you can't, do a certain task that someone is asking you to help out with, but it doesn't, necessarily align with like your self-care goal for that day, or just what's best for you, to maintain your energy or your health standards or levels. But you don't want to disappoint people either.
Mhm.
And so that's really a hard thing to get used to doing.
Yeah, I have a friend who I think her whole life has been caring for other people. And she's been retired for, oh, I don't know, probably 8 years. And she has less time now than when she was working full time as a teacher. And she used to come in, um, well, she was late like me. She would come in just in time for the kids, but she would spend hours there after school and sometimes not go home till 6 or 7 at night. Um, and now with her, the way her life is that she's always taking care of other people. She's doing for other people all the time. And I don't know that she has a sense of saying no to anybody, because she just is loving and giving and wants to help. But I don't know that she takes care of herself. I don't know if she saves herself in that.
Mhm.
I just spilled coffee all over. Um, let's see what else. Growth over speed. Yeah, that's one I have to work on. Like I always want it done like that. Want it done now. And I love like graphic design is my passion, and I love creating new designs. Writing my blog has been something that I love, but I want it to be published immediately. And so often I will publish it and then go back and read it afterwards and I go because I just wanted to get it out there. So I have to slow down and, take my time with things. Let's see what else is up there. Disassociate improvement from failure. So that idea that room for improvement, a lot of people are like, oh, I wasn't good enough, versus understanding that room for improvement means, you mean I can get even better? I can do better than this? I think that's
Well, I think that is, oh, sorry.
example. I'm sorry, that's a great example of going from fixed to growth.
Right. And I think that, can you scroll up just or down a little bit? I think it was like 8 or 9, and it was something about it's a process, and creating the purpose around that. And just recognizing that it's not going to happen overnight. You're not looking for speed, you're looking for that, incremental growth. And as you're doing that incremental growth, you're also, hopefully learning stuff along the way about yourself, about other people, about what your needs are, and cultivating that, so that it is ultimately creating, you also need to create flexibility within that process too, I think. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. I think after our talks the last couple weeks, I created a template for change, and I don't know that I published it to anybody yet, because I'm like in the process of filling it out for myself first to
Mhm.
see what else I might need to tweak. So I am taking my time on that one. But ironically, I think I'm taking my time because it's really hard to fill it out for yourself, like to really examine all of these different things in your life, as we talked about in the past few weeks, that you have to understand yourself. You have to do a little self-reflection and understand what is it that prevents you from getting to that goal on a daily basis, you know, in the past, and how can you accommodate that? And so valuing that process, and even in the planning of the process, is going to take a lot of time, and you have to value that, especially if you're going back to last week. If you want to make lasting change, you have to value time. You have to say it's going to take some time for that. You can't instantly say, I'm going to have a growth mindset now. Celebrate your growth. Redefine genius. Here's the thing that I told my kids. I didn't quite tell this whole story. I taught the gifted and talented population for 9 years. And I always had them in my class too, but it wasn't until I actually became a teacher of the gifted and talented and was certified that I started thinking about this in different terms. But these kids have been told they're smart their whole life. And so when they are faced with a challenge, some of them, many of them, have that fixed mindset because they don't equate hard work with success. They equate their intelligence level. And so one of the things that I always preached to my kids was, look, your smarts, your intelligence level is not going to be a factor in determining your success. Just because you're smart doesn't mean you're going to be successful. A person who has a lesser IQ, is not in this gifted class, as I would tell them, is going to be better than you. And the whole difference is because of the effort that they put into what they're doing, the passion, the not giving up, the persistence. And that is the true measure of success, is how hard you work, how persistent you are, and not giving up. And there was one other point in that. I'm trying to think of this big poster I had on my wall. And in any case, it comes down to hard work. And so you have to understand that in order to be successful, you have to work hard. And so that whole idea of genius, we can all be geniuses at something, right? If we work hard enough. There's number 16, effort before talent. You know, no matter what, we've probably seen it in sports, right? You might have an intense passion for something, and that's what makes you work so hard, but that also makes you successful. And someone who has the talent, who doesn't work hard at it, doesn't cultivate those skills, is not going to be as good as the kid who's out there practicing all the time.
I really like that story you shared with me when we were planning this, about the boy that was in the class that was, you know, and then he tell the story. It's great. Okay. I love it.
Well, I as part of my training and duties as a special ed teacher, as a gifted education teacher, I would go to some conferences through the National Association of the Gifted Child. It was big national conferences, big speakers. And there was a speaker, Dr. Scott Barry Kaufman was his name. And he got up there and he talked about how when he was a kid, he was 6 years old, a psychologist asked him, or a doctor, I don't know who it was, a doctor of some sort, asked him, what do you want to be when you're older, when you grow up? Really slow to help him understand the words. And he said, I want to be a psychologist and I want to talk in front of a bunch of people. And of course, the guy was like, yeah, right. And they were doing testing on him and they put him in a special ed class at that point. So from the time he was 6 years old, he was in special ed. And back then, special ed wasn't inclusion classes like we have now. They weren't, you know, within the general population. They were separated out and they were in that room. How many of you remember that? Remember seeing like that room? And he was in that room, and he stayed in that room through middle school, you know, elementary school, middle school, and into high school. When he was a freshman in high school, all of these years constantly frustrated by his own abilities or inabilities. And when he was in high school, he was in the special ed classroom, but across the hall, there was a biology class for gifted students. And he was fascinated by this. And the teacher would find him looking out the door a lot and just kind of watching what was going on in the other class. And finally, they allowed him to go over there and start taking a class with these kids. And he did great. Another part of that story, I'm not sure the timing, because I was watching one of his YouTube videos to kind of catch myself up to the story. Also, when he was a freshman in high school, he had a teacher came in, one that he hadn't seen before, and she saw him and she looked at him and was just observing him for a long time. And he was trying to take a test and he needed more time, you know, so his processing was slower, but, you know, he could do the work. And she came to him and said, I see you. I know your frustration, and I'm going to help you get out of this class. And he decided that day, he went home and told his parents, I'm not going to go to the special ed class anymore. And they had a meeting and whatever, and they allowed him to get out of that class on a trial basis. And when he did amazingly. He went on to learn how to play the cello. His grandfather was a professional cellist and he taught him how to play. And there was this, you know, love of music that was born in him, so much that he was going to major in music in college, went off to college. And within the first few months being there, he went into the psychology office and said, can I do a minor in psychology? Which of course led to him giving up music and majoring in psychology, and going on to get his doctorate degree. All of this stuff because that was what was within him, and he worked hard. And now he does research on neuroplasticity, that the brain can change and does change with work. You can, you know, your IQ is not set, it's not finite, but you can work and stretch and learn and grow beyond what people or you have self-proclaimed that you can do. So yeah, so now this guy talks all over the world and talks about his research. He's written books, and you know, he started life as a special ed student. So we put too many labels on people and close in their parameters, and we want them to fit in this nice neat little package. But when you apply yourself and you work, you know, I think you can be limitless. So hope I told that story in the same way that
You did. And
that
that
it meant something.
and to me, that's a true growth mindset that he had. You know, he worked hard for it, and he may have, and people may have not known about the SMART goals back then, but you know, he sure worked at it and got where he said he wanted to be when he was 6 years old. You know, when that first psychologist asked about what he wanted to be when he grew up. I love that story.
Yeah.
I love that story.
It's a great story. I mean, it speaks to so many different levels about how when you speak something over someone, if you have that expectation, how at, you know, a lot of times many people, that person, the people around them are quick to kind of just adopt that mindset about them, which isn't always true. And then it takes someone kind of helping them to see that that's not necessarily the correct mindset to have.
Mhm.
So, well, I actually have a hard stop for myself at 11 that I have to pop up, but I love that that's the story that I'm ending with. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
Good to
Yeah,
see
and
you,
that-
ladies.
The last piece in that, the last one says, take ownership over your attitude. And I think that says it all,
Mhm.
right?
I agree.
For sure. All right, ladies, have a wonderful rest of the day,
Thanks.
Thank you, Camille.
and I will see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Anything else? What else we got? Anything else to chat about? There's lots of ways, but I guess it takes a lot of self-reflection and starting to recognize when you do have that fixed mindset. You
Right.
can't switch it unless you recognize it.
Yeah, and I think just writing some of those things down. I know you had talked about journaling in the past. It doesn't necessarily have to be, sit down for 20 minutes and write, but maybe just, if you do have something come to you, jot it down and then, reflect back on it later when you do have time, to help you move forward past any hurdles that you may have, or, things that you're working on to move forward, to better yourself, to switch from that fixed mindset in that particular instance to a growth mindset with maybe something that was troubling you before, to help you out.
Yeah, I think just recognizing you have to be reflective.
Mhm.
Have to be reflective in order to change your mindset. And there are people who fight against that. Like they don't want to think about what they think. They just think it. And again, those people are not going to grow. Those people are going to stay the same if you don't reflect. And I like what Carol Dweck said about we're not 100% growth. We'll never be 100% growth, but we can keep moving in that direction the more that we do reflect and recognize our shortcomings in the fixed mindset area.
Exactly. I have to get that book. I wrote it down.
Yeah, she's written a couple other books, and then I think you would want to get the latest version of Mindset, because this one was the first version of it, written in well, that's not the copyright, 2008. So 2008, and like I said, there was future research and the more feedback they got, that they came up with the idea that it's not a this or that, but people are usually a mixture of those two things depending on the situation.
Mhm.
Mary, what are you thinking today? You've been quiet, you're reflective.
Reflective, yeah. I recognized myself in quite a few of those little things. Like the, what was the one you were talking about now? Of course, I can't remember it. Well, the criticism one. You have to look at that as something positive. And I always looked at it as something negative.
Right.
So,
Right.
but
And that's a hard thing because that's a personal attack on me. So yeah, a lot of people have that. What are you talking about? I'm good enough, right? That's how we react to some of these things.
yes. And I was always like that all growing up. I had I'm an introvert. I should probably tell most of the time when I don't talk. But I'm one of 5. There were 2 introverts and 3 extroverts.
That doesn't help.
So, yeah, so that doesn't help. And, I was just a scared little kid all the time. And sometimes, and she's still in there, that scared little kid. So, but I'm trying to change. I appreciate these classes.
Yeah.
Even though I don't like getting up this early, but I appreciate it.
We love it.
It's funny because when I don't have to get up, I'm up at 8 o'clock,
Right. Yeah.
But anyhow, but I can get very reflexive, whatever, and just start thinking in my head.
Mhm.
which I do, and then, but I am listening to everything you say, and I'm sorry I was a little distracted in the beginning. I had to take care of something, so,
You're fine. You're fine.
yeah.
That's why I like journaling, because journaling allows me to be reflective and write down all of those things that I'm thinking, and even things that I didn't know I was thinking. Did you ever have that happen? Like you're writing and then these things come out of you and you're like, I didn't know I felt that way, you know?
Mm.
But the other good thing about that is that you can let it sit and you can go back and reread it later. And then I think when you reread it, then other ideas pop into your head about how to deal with those things. Like you're not going to
Mm.
solve it right away by writing it down, but by rereading it and returning to it, then you feel like, oh, all right, well, and sometimes the answer is very obvious and it was hidden from you before. But when you read,
Mm.
it's kind of like, you know how you can solve everybody else's problems, but you don't solve your own.
Can't solve your own.
You know, it's kind of like if you go back and read something you read, you're thinking of it as a friend, like somebody else's
Mm.
problem, and then all of a sudden it becomes more clear about where you should go with it and what you should do.
I've done that in talking to my friends, and I'll be giving them advice, and then I just stop right in the middle and say, I don't know who I'm giving this advice to, you or me.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's like, I'm not sure, because I am very good at giving advice,
Right.
not so good at taking it. So,
Because I give.
but what I really hope, I really hope I can get my son to watch these, the replays. He was supposed to watch it, but then we had a little thing, so,
Mhm.
and I was taking care of his thing. So, but I'm
It's
gonna
like
try and see if I can get him to watch it.
that song from Alice in Wonderland. I give myself very good advice, but I very seldom follow it.
Yes, yes.
It's true. We can tell ourselves what to do, but unless we do it.
And it
Wow.
could, go ahead.
I don't have anything to say. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that, sometimes in journaling, just start with that one thought, that one thing, and, just expand on that one thing. So you don't have to write 30 different things, but, just start with the one thing. And like you both said, when you go back to it later to reflect on it, maybe that's where, you're going to say, oh yeah, if this were my friend, I would have told them, but it's me. So what would I tell my friend? I'll tell myself, so.
And if you're resistant to your own advice, recognizes that as a fixed mindset.
Right.
Okay, now I have I know the problem. I have a possible solution. Why am I not going there?
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I'm watching just to see if anybody says anything, but it says everything we say. It's
Oh, you said that last time,
Yeah.
that when we were talking, it was like recording everything we said or putting it out there, whatever.
I wonder if it's a new feature, and I wonder how it works when we talk over top of each other.
Broken, fragmented sentences.
All
My
right.
hair's still wet.
I think we've finished our chat today. We're sort of like, now we're all just gonna go sit and be reflective.
There you go.
Well, thanks for being with us again. Next
Well,
week,
you.
thank you
I don't know what next week is.
both.
We'll have to chat about that, Kathy, because
Yeah, we will. We can.
we talked about mindfulness, which
Mindfulness, that's right.
is a mindset, mindfulness. And I have a good friend who has a whole website about that I'm gonna engross myself in, dive right in and start looking at that. So we'll look at mindfulness next week. And
Sounds good.
any plans for Mother's Day?
Not really.
No?
My son will probably
Take
cook.
you out.
Do you have plans for Mother's Day?
We're gonna go out to dinner someplace. We might try that place you and Rich went to, the Grand Oaks. Is that what it was? That
Oh, the one that was out with
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the farm looking,
Actually closer to me than it was to you where you were.
right?
Yeah, because we played golf out that way. We're actually where Rich and Dick played golf. We
Mhm.
played out there and went past it. And I was just thinking about that today, and I said, oh, because I thought maybe I'd go to Nancy Lopez Legacy restaurant. I love that one. But I
Mhm.
thought, oh, it'd be nice to try something new. So we might go there. I don't know. He may be surprising me where we go. So we're going to just go out to dinner. And I told him maybe we could play 9 holes of golf. I don't want
Would
to
be
get
nice.
too tired before my dinner, but
It's going to be a little too cold here to do that for me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I like golf and pool and shower and dinner. That would be a nice day. So
That exactly. That's what we do when it's warmer.
uh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about you yesterday when I was in the pool. I was like, oh, Kathy doesn't have
This
the
morning when I left the house, it was maybe 41 degrees.
oh.
Ooh,
And Logan's playing baseball, and I don't think the temperature has changed much. I think it's still in the 40s,
That's
maybe.
terrible that it's so cold in May for you guys. I mean, I know it's changeable. I remember the weather from where we were, but even it's kind of not normal.
Yeah,
Usually,
it's 40, 46
yeah. Oh my
right
God.
now.
Yeah. Well, I got up, it was 55. So I didn't go outside right away, but then I did later. All right. Time to end this baby. Put her to bed. Everybody
All
have
right.
a great Mother's Day. See
you too.
Yes, happy Mother's Day,
Day.
everyone.
you next week. Love you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.